A great new book has just been released called Fathers of Faith, a book full of stories of compassion, strength, honor, and discipline. Authors Gary Toyn and Mike Winder join me now to share some of those stories with us. And how did this book and how this idea come about?
You know, after my Presidents and Prophets project with Covenant Communications a few years back, they approached me about this one. It's really exciting. We got going on it, and then I got busy running for mayor of West Valley last year, so we brought in Gary Toyn as a co-author, and we put it together. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
A lot of years putting this together. And Gary, I understand this is also turned into a DVD?
It is. We've done a lot of work in trying to get people's stories on tape that have compelling stories, and it's we've got people like help me here.
Yeah, Matt Holland, Jake Garn,
Lavelle Edwards, Jane Clayson, some great stories. Michael Ballum, a lot of good people who have some really amazing stories.
Yes, some very high-profile fathers in here. Why don't you tell us, Mike, some of your favorite stories?
You know, I love the historical ones. I love John Taylor going back across the Mississippi River to get his little son's rocking horse. I love Michael Ballum's story, where he's in Chicago and his dad leaves an important dinner to take his son to see Man of La Mancha. A lot of great stories in this book.
How about you, Gary?
Some of my favorites are Matt Holland. Matt talks about prayer, about how often the Lord will give you a different answer than what you expect, but always the right answer. And it often takes faith to be able to pursue that answer. I like Lavelle Edwards' story about keeping your good name and how important it is to have a good name.
Were there any stories or any of these that you found that really surprised you that you didn't know about these men before?
You know, it's interesting when you see the interaction through writing. A lot of them wrote letters. Jake Garn's dad wrote him some very touching letters when he was on a business trip in California and Jake turned 12, and so he wrote him a letter there that was very touching. You see stories of Stephen Covey shoplifting as a little boy. You don't expect that one. So there's a lot of surprising stories in there.
How about you, Gary? Were there any that surprised you?
I think the thing that really surprised me was the breadth and depth of the type of people that we have involved, from prophets down to people who have home taught for have never missed a home teaching for 10 years or decades, to people who are farmers, to people who are professional athletes. It's really a manual on how to be a good father. If there ever was one, this is kind of a good way to learn from people who have done some pretty amazing things.
I'll have both of you answer this one. How did writing this book change, if at all, the perspective of your own father?
You know, I love my dad, Kent Winder, great guy. He learned a lot from his dad, Ned, and there's a great tradition there, and it drew me closer remembering on that. But I think it also helped me as a father to 4 kids to think about a lot of these great ideas in there that I could use to help as a father myself.
Gary?
My experience is different. My dad and I haven't always gotten along, and so it was important for me when I was doing this book to kind of learn what I should do. I was asked that I'd have to write about my dad, and my dad wasn't too happy about that, or actually he said, why would you want to write about an old crumb bum like me? So, but for me, it really changed my life because I realized how ungrateful I was to my father. He taught me a lot of the lessons that are contained in the book, and I never really gave him credit. So although we may differ in styles, I really love my dad, and it really was an eye-opener for me to be able to say, you know, my dad did a pretty good job.
Well, that's great. That's great. What was the favorite part about doing it together?
You know, it's interesting to see what different stories would come up with, because we each had different contacts and each had to get through different gatekeepers of some of these famous and not so famous dads, and it's fun to see what Gary would come up with, and a lot of great content in there.
And often we team up, you know, Mike would approach somebody and then I'd approach somebody, and actually 2 of us together kind of made it work. So it was a great team. We make a great team.
The fun thing is we have some blank pages at the back of the book for people to write about their own father, so it's a great gift and really a good gift idea.
Oh, that's a great idea. Gary Toyn, Mike Winder, thank you so much. It's a beautiful book, Fathers of Faith. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here on Mormon Times, and please join us again next Sunday at 10 a.m.